Once again, welcome to Little Big Wins. This is my little podcast where I am able to express with my greatest sense of genuine sincerity from me to you and to all listeners. I'm so grateful if I have any actually listen. Thank you so much. Where I express how small and not so grand gestures in a particular direction with a particular intention, no matter how unpublic they are and no matter how unseen by the public they are, those actions are still big. And therein, the compilation or the goal of this, usually you have a win. Therefore, I have little big wins, more or less my expressions of these types of little actions along the way that accumulate to greater things and a certain type of success, maybe even a quiet success. But it's really a way for me to be your cheering squad if you think you're doing living and making actions that are not giant strokes, publicly seen or known or even appreciated, but you know you're on the right track. I'm here to just cheer you on, absolutely. And so with that, along those same lines, and of course on brand, I do want to express how I came to the conclusion of what type of scholarly research I would actually be doing and partaking. I PhD'd years ago, just to give you some context and some history as to why it has taken me so long to do so. I had PhD'd out of an amazing program from Switzerland all the way back in 2006. I was barely 32, 33 years old. And so, excuse me, it was an amazing program because there you were surrounded by the grandeur of the physical environs of the Swiss mountains, of where Adorno would walk the paths. It's linked to these other continental philosophers that have inspired me even to this day, even though I have rested from diving in further their actual texts. And so there I was having a marvelous time, really, really focused on learning so many new approaches to critical thought and criticality throughout the ages. But this was a European training in PhDs, and I'm really glad that is part of my history, and specifically my intellectual history. Which is really interesting because I actually had gone into that program very heavily influenced by my undergraduate training, which was done at the American Samoa Community College, but especially the influence I was living, breathing, and doing was from BYU Hawaii, which I loved. Wonderful teachers. They taught me a lot of race theory. There were clarities about divisional systemics there, historically, diaspora, all the buzzwords that make up race studies, cultural studies. And when I say cultural studies, I'm talking about the Birmingham, England brand of Stuart Hall cultural studies. I believe he actually coins the terminology. So there's all that, and I did notice that as an undergraduate, while there was amazing work to be read and researched, like by Gellner or Eric Hobsbawm, There were also arrows leading to the big guns, my teacher in grad school would call, Avital Rona would call, the big philosophers that has created the Western foundations of Western thought, and also are products of Western thought throughout the ages. We're talking Aristotle, Socrates, Plato, and on and on. And I really loved it. I really loved being schooled in this particular arena of thought, and just seeing how, and just feeling and breathing so much of their particular complex and formulated opinions became, again, foundational to Western thought, especially scholarly Western thought. And this, of course, bled into my interest in American thought along the same lines and the same school of complexities. I spent some time at Harvard as well studying under a really, really wonderful professor, Jeff McConnell. Anyway, to make a long story short, which, I eventually graduated from that wonderful program and then had an expectation from everyone in academics that I would lean toward race theory. And for a while I thought, okay, what could I claim here in that? And I went to some of the conferences, and I was really, of course, intrigued by what was shared at these particular Indigenous conferences. Amazing. However, for some reason, I did know that the angles that their perspectives were approaching with would not be mine. I can go on and on about colonialism, neocolonialism, and these types of divisional histories that have not united humans throughout the ages because of turf wars, territoriality, settlements, which are not the point of origin of settling persons from one land to another. And so these types of turf wars, I'm not dismissing them. I'm just saying, I felt that I would not be writing about that. And it took me a long time to come to terms with that. And also, I was not to formulate more dialectical nor even more phenomenological types of philosophical texts either. That's not where I felt I should also spend my time. And so I was, for a long time, as a student and as a postdoc, kind of the little guy, odd gal out, that wasn't quite self-clarified in whose side I was going to pick. And believe me, I've spent many a night trying to figure out, okay, what exactly am I going to write? And what exactly am I going to publish? What am I going to be responsible for 100 years from now, once I'm long gone from this earth and people are reading my stuff? And what exactly are they going to be influenced to do? And philosophical thought has laid a hold on the emotions en masse, and intellectual houses too. And so I just felt that there had to be more thought and more years in deciding and choosing and selecting what particular expressions where am I going to, in the scholarly, intellectual, academic realm, what exactly would I offer this world? And so for a long time, I did not choose a house to park at and to start writing. And there are problematics in that too. I thought maybe, okay, art history. Well, what can be said of art history? Okay, well, it'll lean more towards philosophical, maybe even Freudian, as most writings have in the post-structuralist creative schools of thought. And so I thought, well, I had been waffling back and forth, and believe me, I have wrestled with this for many a night. And finally, a few years ago, we had the prophet of our church, President Russell M. Nelson, state that the most important thing in this life is the temple and what goes on in there, and and missionary work. And that's it. And that actually helped me process what I wanted to express. And not too long after that, and at that time he said that I was an ordinance worker in the local temple of where I live. And I still help out with that as well in other temples, while our current temple locally is actually under renovation and under construction. Well, anyway, it did dawn on me that I would be writing about the temple, that actually would be my niche for scholarly writing. And I'm sure if you're a member of my church, you're like, okay, well, that's nothing new. You're right, it's not new. However, in my perspective, it is extremely the most crucial. And so I decided that I would align myself with this wonderful prophet who I have decided a long time ago that he is a mouthpiece of our greatest creator through his son, Jesus Christ. And I will let the gift of the Holy Ghost work that in me, and it sure did. So that is actually the topic and of what I will be publishing. I have wonderful colleagues that will be publishing the militant expressions of land tenure and neocolonization and on and on. Race relations, on and on. Race, class, gender, on and on. All the classics. However, I will do the little stuff, which I think is the biggest stuff of all in my mind. And I will write about temples. And it's clear to me that I will not be revealing really anything that goes on in the temples. That's really not something I would do. I know other LDS scholars are doing that. That's great. Me, no. I will not be doing that. I will be focusing on some historical aspects of the temple that could help readers of all levels of the stuff I will publish to come closer to Jesus Christ and to see that they too could find a home in the temple as a patron or as an ordinance worker. Or to participate in other ordinances that are special in ways that maybe other sites and other physical brick and mortar places cannot offer. But I also want to add that historical aspect of the temple includes the indigenous nature of the temple. Right? The temple in general is a work and a wonder in and of itself. There's a great marveling to do at the temple. Its origins, we assume with Adam and Eve. We're still finding old remnants of certain types of writings, centuries, of course, long after the fact, that describe that particular first temple linked to the Garden of Eden, and on and on. So none of that is really new, really. However, approaching it for myself as an indigenous person, and approaching it to write the temple in addition to its indigenous nature, includes the writing of Jesus Christ himself being born into an indigenous physical body. And I do not see a lot of the temple histories written this way. And so in the little strokes of inspiration I have received, they are private big wins to me. I don't know if anybody's going to read this stuff that I will publish, and I've already started researching. But that really does not matter. I'm going to pay attention to the still small voice, and pay attention to that particular topic. Just little. I do also write the historicity, some historical aspects of the temple, with the approach being indigenous and highlighting its indigenous nature from an indigenous God, right? If we were to assume that it is correct that Jesus Christ is a tribal member of the Middle Eastern region and is born into tribes. He grows up as a local native tribal kid, as many of us indigenous in our homelands have, in our home regions have, as well. There are also linkages to my particular region of the world, to Jesus Christ's birthplace, indigenous links to his home region, his indigenous tribal home region as well. And so I wanted to express that here, to begin that discussion, that conversation. There are many indigenous members of the church that I belong to who are not interested in the church any longer. However, if this could also be of help to their growing up and learning of that, to help invite them to remain in this church and to know that this church has a lot of indigenous stake and a lot of indigenous claim to it in its origin. Its very God was born into an indigenous body, so I'm claiming. And the temple, long before he was even born into this world, could be seen as an indigenous brick and mortar, indigenous location, brick and mortar, or indigenous site in relation to our indigenous and understanding of the Garden of Eden. And so more to come. I wanted to express that these are little ideas. I'm sure some of you that you're like, oh, the crazy lady on little big ones. But I'm going to stick to my guns on that. I feel really strongly about that. I have been more than prayerful about that. And I did not just suddenly have an idea this morning and wanted to share that online. These things have been in my mind swirling for the last few years. And it's getting to the point where it's time to get those published and get those particular pieces completed. So, yeah, the temples, that is my topic, my particular approach to that, my little approach to that would be the indigenous nature of that ancient site, where ancient, perhaps indigenous, actions and rituals and ceremonies are performed in very sacred ways. And I'm talking about an indigenous approach to what is sacred. Anyway, so I wanted to just share my little thoughts. I don't think anyone else thinks they're big, but I just wanted to share that and just offer that here for you. All right. Hope that you join us next time. Bye-bye.